Bill McKibben, Jim Dean, Governor Hassan, Senator Shaheen, thank you very much for your kind remarks. And let me begin by thanking the 13 million Americans who voted for me during the Democratic primaries. And thank you, New Hampshire, for giving us our first great victory. And a very special thanks to the people of the state of Vermont whose support for so many years, as a mayor, as a congressman, as a senator, and as a presidential candidate, have sustained me and Jane and our entire family. Vermont, thank you. Let me also thank the hundreds of thousands of volunteers throughout this country, in every state in the union, who work so hard on our campaign, and the millions of contributors who showed the world that we could run a successful national campaign based on small individual contributions. $2.5 million of them. Together, we have begun a political revolution to transform America, and that revolution continues. Together, we will continue to fight for a government which represents all of us and not just the 1%. A government based on the principles of economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. I am proud of the campaign we ran here in New Hampshire and across the country. Our campaign won the primaries and caucuses in 22 states. And when the roll call at the Democratic National Convention is announced, it will show that we won almost 1,900 delegates. Far more than almost anyone thought we could win. But it is not enough to win the nomination. Secretary Clinton goes into the convention with 389 more pledged delegates than we have, and a lot more superdelegates. Secretary Clinton has won the Democratic nominating process. And I congratulate her for that. She will be the Democratic nominee for president, and I intend to do everything I can to make certain she will be the next president of the United States. I have come here today not to talk about the past, but to focus on the future. That future will be shaped more by what happens on November 8th in voting booths across our nation than by any other event in the world. I have come here to make it as clear as possible as to why I am endorsing Hillary Clinton. And why she must become our next president. During the last year, I have had the extraordinary opportunity to speak to more than 1.4 million Americans at rallies in almost every state in our country. I was also able to meet with many thousands of other people at smaller gatherings. And the profound lesson that I have learned is that this campaign is not really about Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders or any other candidate who sought the presidency. This campaign is about the needs of the American people and addressing the very serious crises that we face. And there is no doubt in my mind that as we head into November, Hillary Clinton is far and away the best candidate to do that. It is very easy to forget, and Republicans want us to forget, where we were 7.5 years ago when President Obama came into office. As a result of the greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior on Wall Street, our economy was in the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. Some 800,000 people a month were losing their jobs. We were running up a record-breaking deficit, and the world's financial system was on the verge of collapse. We have come a long way in the last 7.5 years, and I thank President Obama and I thank President Obama and Vice President Biden for their leadership in pulling us out of that terrible recession. But I think we can all agree that much, much more needs to be done. Too many Americans are still being left out, left behind, and ignored. In the richest country in the history of the world, there is too much poverty, there is too much despair. This election is about the single mother I saw in Nevada, who with tears in her eyes told me that she was scared to death of the future because she and her daughter were not making it on the $10.45 an hour she was earning. This election is about that woman and the millions of other workers in this country who are falling further and further behind as they try to survive on totally inadequate wages. Hillary Clinton understands that we must fix an economy in America that is rigged and that sends almost all of the new wealth and income to the top 1%. Hillary Clinton understands that if someone in America works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. She believes, we all believe, that we must raise the minimum wage to a living wage. And further, she wants to create millions of new jobs by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our water systems, our wastewater plants. But her opponent, Donald Trump, well, he has a very different view. He believes that states should have the right to lower the minimum wage or even abolish the concept of the minimum wage. If Donald Trump is elected, we will see no increase in the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, a starvation wage. This election is about which candidate will nominate Supreme Court justices who are prepared to overturn the disastrous Citizens United decision a decision which is allowing billionaires to buy elections and is undermining our democracy. This election is about who will appoint new justices on the Supreme Court who will defend a woman's right to choose. Who will defend the rights of the LGBT community. Who will defend workers' rights, the needs of minorities and immigrants, and the government's ability to protect our environment. If anyone out there thinks that this election is not important, take a moment to think about the Supreme Court justices that Donald Trump will nominate and what that means to civil liberties, equal rights, and the future of our country. This campaign is about moving the United States toward universal health care. And reducing the number of people in our country who are uninsured or underinsured. Hillary Clinton wants to see that all Americans have the right to choose a public option in their health care exchange, which will lower the cost of health care for millions. She also believes that anyone 55 years or older should be able to opt in to Medicare. And she wants to see millions more Americans gain access to primary health care, dental care, mental health counseling, and low-cost prescription drugs. through a major and dramatic expansion of community health centers throughout this country. Hillary is committed to seeing thousands of young doctors, nurses, psychologists, dentists, and other medical professionals practice in underserved areas as we follow through on President Obama's idea of tripling funding for the National Health Service Corps. In New Hampshire, in Vermont, and across this country, we have a major epidemic of opiate and heroin addiction. People are dying every day from overdoses. Hillary Clinton understands that if we are serious about addressing this crisis, we need major changes in the way we deliver mental health treatment throughout this country. And that is what expanding community health centers will do, and that is what getting medical personnel into the areas we need them most will do. And what is Donald Trump's position on health care? Well, no surprise there. Same old Republican contempt for working families. He wants to abolish the Affordable Care Act, throw 20 million people off of the health insurance they currently have, and cut Medicaid for low-income Americans. The last thing we need today in America is a president who doesn't care about whether millions of Americans will lose access to the health care coverage they desperately need. We need more people with access to quality health care, not fewer. Hillary Clinton also understands that millions of our seniors, disabled veterans, and others are struggling with the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs. She and I are in agreement that Medicare must negotiate drug prices with the pharmaceutical industry. And that we must expand the use of generic medicine. Drug companies should not be making billions in profit while 1 out of 5 Americans are unable to afford the medicine they need. The greed of the drug companies must end. This election is about the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality that currently exists, the worst it has been in our country since 1928. Hillary Clinton knows that something is fundamentally wrong when the very rich become richer while many others are working longer hours for lower wages. She knows that it is absurd that middle-class Americans are paying an effective tax rate higher than hedge fund millionaires. And that there are corporations in this country that make billions of dollars a year in profit, yet because of the loopholes that their lobbyists created in a given year, they do not pay a nickel in federal taxes. That is wrong. While Hillary Clinton supports making our tax code fairer and more progressive, Donald Trump wants to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the very wealthiest people in this country. His reckless economic policies will not only exacerbate income and wealth inequality, they will increase our national debt by trillions of dollars. This election is about the thousands of young people I have met throughout this country who have left college deeply in debt, the many others who cannot afford to go to college, and the need in this country to have the best educated workforce in a highly competitive global economy. Hillary Clinton believes that we must substantially lower student debt and that we must make public colleges and universities tuition-free for the middle class and working families of this country. This is a major initiative that will revolutionize higher education in this country and improve the lives of so many of our people. Think of what it will mean. Think of this. When every child in this country, regardless of the income of his or her family, knows that if they study hard, if they take school seriously, yes, they will be able to get a college education and leave school without debt. This election is about climate change, the greatest environmental crisis facing our planet, and the need to leave this world in a way that is healthy and habitable for our children and future generations. Hillary Clinton is listening to the scientists who tell us that if we do not act boldly in the very near future, there will be more drought, more floods, more acidification of the oceans, more rising sea levels. She understands that we must work with countries around the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel and away from fossil fuels and into energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And that when we do that, we can create a whole lot of good-paying jobs. Well, Donald Trump, like most Republicans, sadly and tragically is choosing to reject science, something no presidential candidate should ever do. He believes that climate change is a hoax. In fact, he wants to expand the use of fossil fuels. That would be a disaster for our country and for the entire planet. This election is about the leadership we need to pass comprehensive immigration reform and repair a broken criminal justice system. It's about making sure that young people in this country are in good schools or at good jobs, not in jail cells. Secretary Clinton understands that we do not need to have more people in jail than any other country on earth at an expense of $80 billion a year. In these stressful times for our country, this election must be about bringing our people together, not dividing us up. While Donald Trump is busy insulting Mexicans and Muslims and women and African Americans and our veterans, Hillary Clinton understands that our diversity is one of our greatest strengths. Yes, we become stronger when black and white, Latino, Asian American, Native American, all of us stand together. Yes, we become stronger when men and women, young and old, gay and straight, native-born and immigrant, fight to rid this country of all forms of bigotry. It is no secret that Hillary Clinton and I disagree on a number of issues. That is what this campaign has been about. That is what democracy is about. But I am happy to tell you that at the Democratic Platform Committee, which ended Sunday night in Orlando, there was a significant coming together between the two campaigns, and we produced by far the most progressive platform in the history of the Democratic Party. Our job now is to see that platform implemented by a democratically controlled Senate, a democratically controlled House, and a Hillary Clinton presidency. And I intend to be in every corner of this country to make certain that happens. I have known Hillary Clinton for 25 years. We were a bit younger then. I remember her as a great First Lady who broke precedent in terms of the role that a First Lady was supposed to play. And as she helped lead the fight to universal health care. I served with her in the U.S. Senate and know her as a fierce advocate for the rights of our children. And I know her, and all of you know her, as one of the most intelligent people that we have ever met. Hillary Clinton will make an outstanding president, and I am proud to stand with her today. Thank you all very much.
Hello, New Hampshire. It is so great. It is so great to be here with so many friends, old and new. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have to say it is Such a great privilege to be here with Senator Sanders. Being here with him in New Hampshire, I can't help but reflect how much more enjoyable this election is going to be now that we are on the same side. Because you know what? We are stronger together. And I want to give a special thanks to someone who has been with Senator Sanders every step of the way, not just throughout this campaign, but over the years, his wonderful wife, Jane Sanders. And also, I've had the pleasure of meeting his son, Levy Sanders. Thank you. I also appreciate greatly having the opportunity for all of us to hear from the speakers beforehand. Governor Maggie Hassan, the next senator from the state of New Hampshire. Senator Jeanne Shaheen, who is doing a tremendous job for you. And we are delighted to have heard from and have with us Bill McKibben and Jim Dean. Over these last few weeks, Bernie and I have worked together on plans to put college within reach for more people and to ensure that everyone in America has access to quality, affordable health care. And now, with your help, we are joining forces to defeat Donald Trump, win in November, and yes, together, build a future we can all believe in. Just as Bernie said, over the years, I've gotten to know him as a colleague and a friend. His reputation for passionate advocacy hasn't always made him the most popular person in Washington. But you know what? That's generally a sign you're doing something right. And throughout this campaign, Senator Sanders has brought people off the sidelines and into the political process. He has energized and inspired a generation of young people who care deeply about our country and are building a movement that is bigger than one candidate or one campaign. So thank you, Bernie, for your endorsement, but more than that, thank you for your lifetime of fighting injustice. I am proud to be fighting alongside you because, my friends, this is a time for all of us to stand together. These have been difficult days for America. Yes, they do. And taking on the systemic racism that plagues our country and rebuilding the frayed bonds of trust and respect between law enforcement and the communities they serve will require contributions from all of us. And we have to begin by starting to listen to each other. And more than that, we then have to come together to do something that will help us fix these problems and heal these wounds. We have to reform our broken criminal justice system, take back our democracy from the wealthy special interests, and make our economy work for everyone, not just those at the top. And you know what? We have to do all these things at the same time. That's why throughout this campaign, we've been calling for eliminating racial profiling and disparities in sentencing, ending the era of mass incarceration, dismantling the school-to-prison pipeline, providing more employment opportunities for formerly incarcerated people. In addition to that, I am proposing 2 new steps that get law enforcement the support they need while also stopping the tragedy of black men and women and black children being killed in police incidents. First, let's bring law enforcement and the communities they swear to protect and serve together to develop national guidelines on the use of force by police officers. And second, let's provide better training on implicit bias. That remains a problem even in our best police departments, but it also remains a problem across society. And I'm asking for all of us to really search our hearts and minds to make sure we don't have those implicit biases. Let's learn from police departments like Dallas that had made strong progress and apply their lessons nationwide. Because everyone in every community benefits when there is respect for the law and when everyone is respected by the law. Remember, when gunfire broke out in Dallas, the peaceful protesters and the crowds that had gathered to support them ran to safety, while the police officers, who just minutes before had been talking with and taking pictures with and protecting the protesters, the police officers ran the other way. They ran into the gunfire. That's the kind of courage and dedication our police and first responders show every single day. So, yes, let's take real, meaningful action to end the epidemic of gun violence in America. From Sandy Hook to Orlando to Dallas and so many other places, these tragedies tear at our soul. And so do the incidents that don't even dominate the headlines. Just this past Sunday, a young man, Seth Rich, who worked for the Democratic National Committee to expand voting rights, was shot and killed in his neighborhood in Washington. He was just 27 years old. Surely we can agree that weapons of war have no place on the streets of America. Our police and first responders should never have to face a madman, a racist, a person filled with hatred, with an assault weapon. We owe it to every officer who puts his or her life on the line to protect us. So let's protect them. And we can't stop there. This is part of a broader challenge across our country. Inequality is too high, wages are too low, and it is just too hard to get ahead for too many Americans. We need an economy that works for everyone, not just those at the top, not just the millionaires and billionaires, but everybody. And to do that, we need to go big and we need to go bold. This isn't a time for half measures. So we are setting 5 ambitious goals. For starters, in my first 100 days as president, we will make the biggest investment in new, good-paying jobs since World War II. More jobs here in New Hampshire and across our country, especially in places that have been left out and left behind. In communities of color, in coal country, Indian country, everywhere where a person deserves the same shot at the American dream as anybody else in our country. And when I say good-paying jobs, I mean it. As Bernie said, Donald Trump thinks wages are too high. He actually stood on a debate stage and said so. He does want to get rid of the federal minimum wage altogether. Well, both Senator Sanders and I believe anyone who is willing to work hard should be able to find a job that pays well enough to support a family, and Bernie is right. $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage. So, sorry, Donald, if you're watching. We're not cutting the minimum wage, we're raising the minimum wage. And we're going to create millions of good jobs by making America the clean energy superpower of the 21st century. As Bernie reminds us so powerfully, we owe it to future generations to work together to combat climate change. And we're going to do it. We've got the intelligence, we've got the innovation, we're going to roll up our sleeves and demonstrate to the world what America is made of. We're going to have that clean energy economy, and we're going to make it work for everybody. And make no mistake, we will defend American jobs and American workers by saying no to the assaults on the right to organize and bargain collectively. And we're going to say no to attacks on working families and no to bad trade deals and unfair trade practices, including the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Second, we're going to make college debt-free for all and help millions of people struggling with existing student debt save thousands of dollars. Here in New Hampshire, you know, students are carrying one of the highest debt loads in the country. I've heard from young people who can't start a business, move out of their parents' home, or even get married because of all the student debt holding them back. So with your help, we're going to make it so future students won't have to borrow a dime to attend public colleges or universities. Thanks to the new proposal Senator Sanders and I worked on together, for families making less than $125,000 a year, we will eliminate tuition at those schools altogether. And we will do more to help students cover all the costs of getting an education, including books, supplies, and living expenses. Because, in the words of a student I met here in New Hampshire, paying for college shouldn't be the hardest thing about going to college. Third, we're going to rewrite the rules and crack down on companies that ship jobs and profits overseas. Let's reward the companies that share profits with their employees instead. And we will defend and strengthen the tough reforms President Obama put in place on the financial industry, not let Donald Trump tear them up, because we do need to make sure Wall Street can never wreck Main Street again. Number 4, we're going to make sure Wall Street corporations and the super rich pay their fair share of taxes. When people say the game is rigged, the best evidence is our tax code. It is riddled with scams, loopholes, and special breaks. It is wrong that some millionaires do pay a lower tax rate than their secretaries, and we're going to stop it. Now compare what Senator Sanders and I intend to do with Donald Trump's plan. His tax plan would make our current system even worse. Independent analysts say he would add $30 trillion to the national debt in order to give a massive gift to the wealthiest Americans, Wall Street money managers, and our largest corporations. But after all, what else should we expect from someone who calls himself the king of debt? Now, we've been pointing out the problems with his tax plan for months, and I think Donald is starting to feel the pressure. In fact, even as we speak, he's apparently bringing in the biggest names in trickle-down, supply-side economics to help him figure out what to do. Now, these are the same advisors who brought us 30 years of a disastrous Republican philosophy that gave the huge breaks to those at the top. Now, you don't have to be a psychic to know what's going to happen next. They're going to come back with another plan with maybe some bells and whistles, Bernie, that tries to disguise the fact that they still are slashing taxes for the wealthy, large corporations, and Donald Trump himself. And they'll try to use voodoo economics to tell us all the ways it will actually help the economy. But they're not fooling anybody, at least I hope they're not. Just like his current plan, which he calls inspiring, tremendous, and amazing. You know, he uses a lot of adjectives to avoid telling you any specifics. Here's what we know for sure. Whatever he comes out with next is going to give huge tax cuts to the corporations and the rich at the expense of the middle class. Now, there's that old saying, you've heard it. I used to hear it a lot in Arkansas. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And I got to tell you, the first time that the Republicans pulled the voodoo economics, you know, they fooled us. Shame on them. But if they come back with the same argument and people fall for it, shame on us. But I will promise you this, Senator Sanders and I will spare no effort to make sure the people of America know that once again, Trump and his cronies are trying to pull the wool over our eyes and come back with the same failed policies that hurt us before. We're not going to let them get away with it again. And finally, our fifth goal is we're going to step up and respond to the way American families actually live and work in the 21st century. Our families and our workplaces have changed, so isn't it time for our policies to change too? Let's expand Social Security to match today's realities, not cut or privatize it. Let's join the rest of the developed world and offer paid family leave. And finally, let's guarantee equal pay for women once and for all. Now, I can just envision the tweets Donald is putting together. And you know, Donald Trump can accuse me of playing the woman card all he wants. If fighting for equal pay and paid family leave is playing the woman card, then deal me in. And I'll tell you, these aren't just my fights. These are Bernie's fights. These are America's fights. And I feel with all my being, these are fights we have to wage and win together. As Bernie and his supporters have argued so eloquently, we won't get anywhere unless we overhaul our campaign finance system. It is past time to end the stranglehold of wealthy special interests in Washington and get back to government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's why, as president, from my very first days, I will make campaign finance reform a top priority. We will do everything we can to overturn Citizens United. And we will require everybody, Democrats, Republicans, independents, whoever, to disclose all of their donors. And while we're at it, we are going to create a small donor matching system to make it easy for more Americans to be elected at every level of government. Because just like Bernie, I have met so many impressive people here in New Hampshire and across America with great ideas for our country. I want to see you run for office and win. And here's another radical idea. Let's make it easier to vote, not harder. Let's fight back against attacks on voting rights across the country, attacks that disproportionately affect low-income voters, people of color, students, the elderly, and women. That means we need to restore the Voting Rights Act and then keep going. All Americans should be automatically registered to vote on their 18th birthday. Every state should have at least 20 days of in-person voting, and no one in America should ever have to wait more than 30 minutes to cast their ballot. So Senator Sanders and I will be working to get unaccountable money out of politics and the voices of everyday Americans back in, because as Bernie has said, this isn't a progressive issue. It's not a conservative issue. It's an American issue. And let me close with this. to everyone here and everyone across the country who poured your heart and soul into Senator Sanders' campaign. Thank you. Thank you. I was proud of the campaign we ran. It was a campaign about issues, not insults. And our country desperately needs your voices and involvement. And so does this campaign, and so does the Democratic Party, because you know what? We need to take back the Senate and take back the House and make sure we have Democratic governors and Democratic state legislators. Let's open the doors to everyone who shares our progressive values. This is one of the most important elections in our lifetimes. So I'm asking you to stand with us. And then I'm asking you to keep working in the weeks, months, and yes, years ahead. You will always have a seat at the table when I am in the White House. As Bernie will tell you, talk is cheap. We need to keep fighting to make sure everything we've stood for is real in the lives of people across America. This amazing country of ours is worthy of our best efforts. This election, let's send a clear message. In America, we don't tear each other down, we lift each other up. We build bridges, not walls. We put common interest ahead of self-interest. We stand together because we're stronger together. So I need your help. Please join this campaign. Make it your own. You can take out your phone right now and text JOIN, J-O-I-N, 47246, or go to hillaryclinton.com. We accept $20, $27 donations too, you know. I can't tell you how grateful I am to be standing here with Senator Sanders, because I think both of us realize that each of our campaigns together represent the best of who we are. And now it is time for us to take that message to the rest of the country. I am fully aware that the other side will do everything possible to distort, to disinform, and we can't let that happen. We have to be standing up and fighting for the America that we know we can create together. I am confident and optimistic about our future, particularly when it comes to young people. I think America's best years are still ahead of us. So join with us. Let's make this happen together and win the election. Thank you very much.